You know, in every single room you enter, there are these invisible systems running in the background. Systems that govern power. They operate totally silently, way beneath the level of conscious thought. And they dictate who gets heard and who gets dismissed. Today, we're going to dissect those systems. We're diving deep into the mechanics of submission, and I don't mean as some kind of character flaw, but as a biological program, one that you can understand and ultimately one that you can control. We're going to look at how authority is silently leaked and exactly how you can reclaim it. Power isn't always lost in some big, dramatic mistake or a fumbled argument. Nope, most of the time it's given away before you've even said a single word. This is what our source material calls a biological broadcast. It's this constant, nonverbal data stream that your nervous system is sending out, signaling your internal state to literally everyone around you. Think about a job interview, right? You might have the perfect answers ready to go, but if your posture is closed off and your voice is hesitant, you are broadcasting uncertainty. And that broadcast, well, it speaks way louder than your words ever will. In high-stakes environments, it can strip you of all your authority in seconds. So here's the crucial point. What you might consciously think of as being polite or, cooperative, your biology is broadcasting as submission. It is a silent leak of power. These unconscious behaviors, that quick downward glance, a slight fidget, the way you soften your tone, those are the exact moments when your own nervous system is being weaponized against your status. Just let that sink in for a moment. Today, we're putting this whole invisible system under a microscope. Okay, so let's start with a diagnosis. You have to be able to name a pattern before you can ever hope to change it. So many of us fall into what the source calls the agreeableness trap. It's this behavioral pattern that feels like you're being a good team player, but what it's actually doing is eroding your own authority one tiny little concession at a time. Let's break down what this actually looks and feels like in the real world.
Does this feel familiar to you? You're in a meeting, a plan is being rolled out that you just know has some major flaws. But instead of speaking up directly, you find yourself nodding along. Your head is saying yes, while your gut is absolutely screaming no. Or what about this? You preface your best ideas with, "I'm sorry, but," or "this might be a stupid question." Or maybe you volunteer for extra work you absolutely do not have time for just because it feels easier than saying no. These aren't just little habits, they are symptoms of a much deeper mechanism at play.
So there's a technical term for this state. It's called induced fawning. It's a primal survival response where your brain, sensing some kind of social threat, makes a split-second decision to trade your authority for what it perceives as safety. It shifts into this mode that's designed to make you appear non-threatening, agreeable, manageable, and the result is an immediate status drop. This isn't some new, modern thing. It's an ancient survival circuit that was designed for a world with, actual physical predators. The problem is, our brains are now applying that exact same circuit to social threats in the boardroom, and it has devastating consequences for our status.
Now this is what's so fascinating. This slide reveals this massive disconnect. Just look at the left column. That's your conscious intention. That's the story you're telling yourself. You think you're being cooperative, polite, a real team player. But now look at the right column. That is the biological signal you're actually sending. That's the raw data other people are picking up on. Your attempt to be cooperative is being read as being compliant. Your politeness gets interpreted as being low threat, and your team player spirit, it's just seen as you being manageable. This gap right here, between your intention and your signal, that's where all your power just vanishes.
So how does this actually happen mechanically? It's not random. It operates within a very specific system, a feedback loop that just reinforces itself over and over again. The source material calls this the Appeasement-Feedback Loop. It's a four-stage mechanism that systematically makes you appear secondary in any social situation. So let's pull back the curtain and unveil this system.
Here they are, the 4 stages. I want you to think of them as a cascade, like a series of dominoes that just drag your status down. It starts with your eyes, then moves to your words, then to your body, and finally, it creates this self-reinforcing loop of seeking approval. Each step triggers the next, and it just deepens that status drop. We're going to break down every single one.
Step 1, the oculomotor yield. This is the simplest and maybe the most powerful submission signal there is. When you're in a conversation with someone you see as higher status, and you're the one who breaks eye contact first, especially if you look down, you have just non-verbally surrendered. This is the exact moment control starts to shift. It's a primitive signal that talks directly to the other person's brain, telling it, "I'm no threat, I'm compliant." So, here's a little exercise. The next time you're talking to a manager or a boss, just notice who breaks eye contact first. Don't try to change anything, just observe. That simple act of awareness, That's step 1.
Step 2, the linguistic softener. Right after you yield with your eyes, you often yield with your words. You start using cushion phrases. I was just thinking, or maybe we could try, or this is probably nothing, but. The source calls these status leaks. What you're basically doing is asking for permission to even have a point of view, which tells everyone in the room that your input is not essential and can probably be ignored. Just contrast, maybe we could try this approach with, my recommendation is this approach. The information is identical, but the framing changes absolutely everything. The first one asks for permission. The second one asserts competence.
And then we get to step 3, the kinetic fidget. This is where your body basically betrays your internal state. High kinetic volatility, the foot tapping, clicking a pen, constantly adjusting your clothes, touching your neck. It's all physical proof that you are not grounded. It shows that the social pressure in the room is stronger than your own internal anchor. You've become what's called a reactive node, meaning your state is being controlled by what's happening around you, not by your own executive control. This is where the trap really starts to snap shut.
And finally, step 4, the nodding loop. A lot of us were taught to nod to show that we're listening, right? But in a hierarchy, excessive nodding signals something completely different. Feedback desperation. You are constantly pinging the leader, looking for those little micro-expressions of approval. Now, of course, this doesn't mean you should never nod. A single deliberate nod can signal understanding, but that rapid, continuous nodding we're talking about, that's a whole different signal. It's not broadcasting, I hear you, it's broadcasting, do you approve of me?
Okay, so we've seen the how. We get the 4 stages of the loop. Now let's get into the why. Why is this feedback loop so unbelievably effective? To really get that, we need to look at the psychological engine that's driving all of this. These deep, hardwired shortcuts our brains use to figure out who's in charge.
So our brains are fundamentally lazy. I mean, they have to be. They're processing millions of bits of information every second, so they create these mental shortcuts, or heuristics, to make super fast judgments. And one of the most powerful of these is the status radar. On an unconscious level, our brains are constantly scanning other people for signals of competence and value. And when it sees stillness, the shortcut basically says, this person is in control, they have resources, they're not wasting any energy. But when it sees a lot of frantic movement, the shortcut says, this person is anxious, they lack resources, they're unstable.
And this slide illustrates that mental shortcut perfectly. It's a binary choice for the brain. Stillness and direct declarative language get interpreted as competence and having plenty of resources. On the flip side, fidgeting and soft permission-seeking language get interpreted as low value and low threat. This triggers what the source calls a predatory reflex in other people. Now that sounds harsh, but it isn't malicious. It just means that even good, well-meaning people will subconsciously start to dismiss what you're saying because your own body has told their brain that it's safe to do so.
This leads to this really powerful internal conflict, which the source calls the heuristic of yielding. We tell ourselves a story. Oh, I'm just being agreeable to build a connection. But really, that's a form of self-deception. Our conscious mind, the part that wants to be a team player, just can't handle the raw truth coming from our more primitive brain, which is basically screaming, I feel threatened. So the conscious mind makes up this noble-sounding story to cover up the fear. Because in a hierarchy, the brain doesn't see agreeableness as connection, it sees it as submission.
Okay, we have diagnosed the problem, we've taken the system apart and looked at the psychology behind it. Now we move to strategy. How do we actually counter this deep programming? The solution isn't about faking it or adopting some aggressive persona. It's about reclaiming your internal anchor and your own cognitive sovereignty.
70%. This single number, this is the leverage point. This is the core of the entire strategic countermeasure. So what does it represent? A conscious, deliberate reduction.
This is the 70% movement rule. The goal is to consciously reduce all of your non-functional movements, the fidgeting, the excessive nodding, the constant shifting, by about 70%. I'll be honest, this will feel really unnatural at first. Your body's going to want to move. Your job is to simply notice that urge and choose stillness instead. You don't suppress the energy, you just channel it differently. You simply breathe. This one single act short-circuits the entire appeasement loop, and it is the fastest way to stabilize your own nervous system.
And here are 3 very specific techniques to practice. First, downward inflection. When you make a statement, end it with a vocal finality of a period, not the upward lilt of a question. Speak your data like it's a fact, not a petition. Second, ventral anchoring. Keep the front of your body, your ventral side, open. Hands still, visible on the table, chest not shielded by crossed arms. This signals security. And finally, the eye contact buffer. When you finish making a point, hold eye contact for 2 full seconds of silence. This one single act breaks the oculomotor yield and reclaims control of the interaction's pacing. We have covered a ton of ground here, from the unconscious signals we all send, to the system that exploits them, and finally, to the strategies we can use to regain control. And it all really comes down to a single, powerful mandate. It's not a complicated strategy, but it does require conscious, deliberate effort.
If there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this. True authority isn't about puffing out your chest or putting on some act. It's not a performance at all, it's a presence. It's a state of being that comes from an anchored, stable nervous system. And the beautiful thing here is, you don't have to fight this system with force. Simply becoming aware of these mechanics, that is the first and most critical step. Awareness itself is what causes the entire system to collapse.
And that leaves us with this one final thought. Your body is speaking long before your mind has a plan. So the question is, what is it saying? The strategic insight is this: agency is reclaimed by minimizing non-functional movement and speaking with declarative weight. The mandate then is clear. Stop leaking your authority. Anchor in your stillness.